for witty inventions on the basis of Proverbs 8:12. And so basically, the Lord downloaded to the lady a formula for ice chips candy, which didn't exist. And essentially, she had to write it down. He did it right while she was singing in the choir. And see, the Lord, when you have your attention on Him, He will just download stuff to you left and right. And so that's why that was happening. But she had to write it down. She had to go figure out how to make that and do some things and really kind of put it into practice to bring it into fruition. So what we found was, during 2020, when just happened, they basically had a $4 million business at that point in time, and now they've been, growing since. So the Lord is not concerned about numbers, unless you to get caught up in numbers. So we have to really look at that. He will download things to us, but it's up to us to act on it, to do the research, to do the digging, to do the understanding, and then to grow that as much as you want to grow that. So they're still growing. So that's a great example because He's not age constricted. We sometimes think that way, that, we're this age or that age, but no, He's no respecter of persons. So that's one of the things we really covered heavily. This time, we're going to switch over into what's your vision. And so Habakkuk 2, verses 2 through 3 in the New King James Version says, "Then the Lord answered me and said, Write the vision and make it plain on tablets, that he may run who reads it. For the vision is yet for an appointed time, but at the end it will speak, and it will not lie. Though it tarries, wait for it, because it will surely come, it will not tarry." So he's saying here to take a vision and write it down. We'll get into specifics of this. The Amplified Classic of that verse 2 says, "And the Lord answered me and said, Write the vision and engrave it so plainly upon tablets that everyone who passes by may be able to read it and easily and quickly as he hastens by." So there's some keys there. One is write it down. I know you try to do it out of memory. If you try to do it out of memory, the devil comes along to steal it. You'll wonder what just happened. Why can I not remember that? And so that's always something you really got to stem around. Type it out, do something. Get it on paper somehow. It's okay. They still make paper. So that's something you always have to do, is because the Lord is dropping things into you. And one thing we talked about the last time, He will cause your thoughts to become agreeable to His will if you're praying about it. And so if you're thinking, well, this is pretty wacky, well, maybe He wants you to do that. Maybe He wants you to get into that because He wants to expand your horizons and cause people to want to come see you and ask you questions about that. So He says, write the vision. The vision is a sight. It's a dream, it's a revelation, or an oracle. It's something gazed at. It's something that you see that maybe not everybody else sees. My wife always accuses me of staring off into the oblivion sometimes, but I'm looking at something. I'm thinking through something. I'm thinking, hey, there's something there. And so if I don't write it down, it will just fade away. So it's something that everybody can do. So he says that which is seen but not with our eyes, it's an act or power of anticipating that which will or may come to be. It gets into prophetic visions. There are prophetic visions that happen that the Lord will impart things to you and show you things to come. And there's usually divine guidance with that. And so we have to really take those thoughts, those dreams, those aspirations, those things that happen to us to just say, okay, Lord, I need to write this down, one. Two, I need to go start doing some research on it and really start comprehending that. So it starts with that vision. A vision is a picture. It's a word picture, an end game. So with a business idea, really comes a series of questions that become the basis for the vision and the construction of business plans. So we're going to get into a lot of detail as we go forward on constructing business plans, putting things together, put numbers with it, things like that, and formulas and so forth to really kind of comprehend what is this? How would I do this? What do I need to get this started? So we thought, last time they started their business in a garage. and then they outgrew it. But then they had to go rent a facility to continue growing the business. So there's things you got to do, just to get it started, and then you just begin to work on it to grow it on that. So it's a picture. It's something we see. Isaiah 46:9 says, "Remember the former things of old, for I am God and there is no other. I am God and there is none like me, declaring the end from the beginning. And from ancient times things that are not yet done, saying, my counsel shall stand, and I will do my pleasure." And so God calls the things from the end to the beginning. He sees what needs to happen, and he calls it into being. Well, he's given us that same ability to do that. So as you're looking and you're seeing things, and you're seeing business ideas, and you're seeing vision of something, and whether it exists in the natural or not, he's wanting you to start calling that into being. He's wanting you to take up his stance on it and just begin to speak forth. So key here is write it down. Keep it simple. Sometimes I've read vision statements. There was a guy I was listening to. We went to a franchise convention, and he got up and I was surprised he admitted this, but he just said, I had this three paragraph, vision. And I thought it was actually pretty good. And so he went to a vision conference, and so they told him that was pretty bad. It was so much that nobody even knew what it was. He didn't even know what it was. So, but he created it. So we make it overly complicated, too stiff, things like that. See, it's got to be simple. Why? Because the picture's got to be clear. It's got to be easily recognizable. See, the scripture talks about in Habakkuk so that somebody who's walking by would know what that was and know what they need to do. That's how clear it needs to be. It's not something you just come up one time. Sometimes you have to really get it down and understand what it is you need to do. So it's something you're just constantly looking at and saying, is that clear? I ask my spouse, and she'll let me know whether it's clear or not. But you need to ask other people, what does that mean to you? Is that something you could go act upon? And you need somebody truthful in your life, though, by the way, because she'll let me know. But you got to keep it simple, but the picture's got to be clear, easily recognizable. It should be just one sentence or a maximum of 2 sentences. I mean, if you really stretch it out, but if you can get it in one sentence, and we'll see some examples as we go here about what a good vision statement is. And I could show you a lot of bad vision statements, but I don't want to pollute your mind with stuff like that. But it has to be so clear that people can see it and go, oh yeah, and really kind of as a reminder to you. So one sentence or a maximum of 2, and so that one passing by can cast a glance and understand it. So it's something you really need to put it everywhere. Put it on your refrigerator, put it on your door, put it on everywhere you got it, on your phone, wherever you need to have it at, so that you're seeing it, looking at it, thinking about it, and just beginning to speak forward what it is that really is saying. So you keep it there and you refer to it. I mean, we all get busy. And so when you get busy, there's a chance to even lose sight of what you were even trying to do. I mean, we see this all the time in companies where they're just running from here and there, doing all kinds of stuff, and not really focusing on what they're supposed to be doing. So it's something that we have to kind of keep in front of us and keep it where we can see it and refer to it. If you get confused, if you get, disoriented, or if you even forget about it, it's always good to keep it in front of you to where you can actually get on it. It really provides a starting point for decisions, operations, marketing, technology, and finance. See, so when they're looking at that, you think about a company, let's just talk about a sizable company that has a lot of money. They have a lot of investment opportunities that come before them. And if they're not true to their vision, they'll get into stuff that they don't really know how to do, or spend a lot of money or time doing things that they really shouldn't get into. So they have to be really disciplined about that. So it becomes something that, people will actually look at and go, oh, that's not in our vision. Now, you may have to change your vision if it's some business opportunity that you really need to pursue, but that's a whole different deal. So you really want to try to stay true to it and understand this is what you're about. So anyway, so call it into being. Hebrews 11:1 in Amplified Classic says, now faith is the assurance, it's the confirmation, it's the title deed of things we hope for. It's being the proof of things we do not see and the conviction of their reality. Faith perceiving as a real fact what is not revealed to the senses. So you have to be persistent about this when you're calling things into being. It's something you see. Everything started with something not seen. Amen. Everything we see was not seen before God called it into being. And so he wants us to do that same thing, that we just begin speaking things out that he's leading us to speak about. So that's the scripture then, as you go to the Lord and say, all right, I'm doing this. I'm going to start speaking this into being. Now, it says that will eventually manifest. And so we have to really work that. Be very persistent about that. And the Lord, I know he'll correct you if you're off base. Amen. He's done that to me several times. So if a business does not have a vision, then their future can become very short-term focused. So not in control of your long-term future. So you have to you're making moves without a purpose. How many times have you seen a company you're working for and they're just chasing whatever? Chasing problems all the time. Well, they might have a vision, but they're busy chasing problems. And I know, if you do like a vision conference with them and they get straightened out, if they don't exercise discipline, then they start chasing those problems again. And so we like chasing problems, but that's a big waste of time if you're never solving the problem. So that's something you always got to look at and say, what am I doing? Am I chasing stuff all the time, or what am I doing? So Proverbs 20:19 says, where there is no vision, the people perish. But he that keeps the law, happy is he. Now, the New Living Testament says, when people do not accept divine guidance, they run wild. Ever seen anybody run wild? There's no barriers. They're just doing whatever. And so no barriers. You see companies do this, they get completely out of kilter. You see things happen in companies where they have sexual scandals or financial scandals or anything like that. Well, that's not in their vision, but it usually permeates all down through the organization from there. And so it's something that the rules just go out the window after a while. So it's something you really have to guard with, is make sure your vision is upright. Make sure your vision is something you can really work with and that people understand certain things. So it provides a clear business direction. It articulates what you want for your business and what it will look like in the future. So every employee, as well as yourself, should be able to look at that and know what it is they need to go do. That's a key. So it's something you'll have to drill into every person that works for you. Why is that vision like that? Where did that come from? What does that mean? In fact, usually in initial training when you have new employees, that's always a requirement. But you have to really follow that up with training just to really drive it down. This is what that means. This is what we're about. And this is what we're going after. So it's pretty clear at that point. So you got to really have them learn, retain, and see it practiced out in the organization. Your future board of directors and management should be able to make investment decisions on the vision you have. So they should be looking at what it is that you're saying your vision is, and really turning away certain business objectives, certain things that are come to you to invest in, just say, that's not our vision. That's not in our core business. That's not in our core values. If they don't, then you may be in trouble. I've seen a lot of companies acquire other companies, and they have a lot of stuff that comes with them, and then they never get rid of the lot of stuff, and then you have a lot of stuff running around. So, it's something we always have to look at. Vision is idealistic. You have to think big. Sometimes it gets scary to think big, but you have to really think big about it. What it is that, it gets down to the core of what is it that you really want to accomplish? And we'll get into some of these questions. What is it that you really want to do? How big, how wide, how long? This is not going to cost you anything, so you can just put whatever numbers up there you are, but you just kind of start filling in things about it. Just say, okay, this is that, and you start putting parameters to it. So it's subject to change if it becomes too constricting. And so we're going to go through some examples of vision statements. A little company called Apple says, bringing the best user experience to customers through innovative hardware, software, and services. Pretty clear? Pretty clear what they do. Apple has a cash problem. They have a lot of cash. And so they are constantly being approached from other companies about, you need to buy this or you need to do that. And so they always have to look at this and just say, well, I know, but that's not in our core business, so we'd have to do something different. So Sony, now this goes all the way back to the 50s. At the time, a lot of Japanese companies had quality problems. Nobody here remembers that, but anyway, it became the company most known for changing the worldwide poor quality of image of Japanese products. Not the best vision statement, but that's what they had. They were trying to produce a quality product, which is okay. Now it's using our unlimited passion for technology, content, and services to deliver groundbreaking new excitement and entertainment as only Sony can. So they're defining themselves as entertainment, as technology, content, and services. And so they've got it down pretty well. Now they may eventually change it again. Most of them will at some point in time. Company called Google used to be, their vision statement was just one click away from everything you need to know. And so that got them into trouble. And so now they have to organize the world's information and make it universally acceptable and useful. So pretty clear what their mission is about. So they're looking constantly at algorithms out the wazoo. Okay, so that's what they do. So there's another company called Intel. In 1999, they had a mission that was the building block supplier to the new computer industry. So they've just recently changed that because they found that to be too constricting. Why? Because the AI things came on out being, and they really needed to get into that with their computer chips, and they just didn't feel like they could get there with the mission statement that they had. So now they go, we are on a journey to be the trusted performance leader that unleashes the potential of data. So a lot of time, energy, effort put into that, to come up with something to do that. So you really got to look at those statements and say, does that define what they do? Pretty much, yeah, it does. Now, sometimes, like I said, you have to change it as technology changes, as new avenues open up like AI or things like that. So it's something you got to be willing to do and look at. So they just recently made that change. So what I'm going to go through here with the rest of this is we're going to go through some questions. And really, this is where you're going to have to do a lot of work, is look at it and say, okay, what is my vision statement, which is one of the questions, but then there's always some questions that you need to parallel along that, especially in the business world, is just start carving out what it is you really want to do. And so this comes with a lot of prayer and things like that. Just say, okay, I know a lot of this is going to take a lot of effort just to kind of get into it, but that's just something we'll have to do. The first question is, describe the product or service you're planning to provide. So the best you can do, you don't have to do it here, but in your off time, just think through, what is it that I'm really trying to do here? What is it that I'm trying to provide? And so we haven't really talked about size or scope yet, but that'll get into the next questions here. So what is that? So what are your ultimate objectives? What are you trying to do? This is critical. You can put numbers to it, you can put thoughts to it and go, okay, I want to be a world leader in whatever. But you have to then you really need to define what that is. So what is your ultimate objective? What will differentiate your product or service offering to your customers? For example, if you decide you want to compete with Amazon, and so you would have to set up, how would I even compete with them? Why would people buy from me versus them? And really get into, what is it makes me different? What does it makes me better is usually the best thing to look at. How can I be better than them? Or any company that you pick on any existing product or service, what would cause me to be different? That people would want to deal with me. So that's something you always really need to look at no matter what business that you're in. So what will differentiate, let's see, what do you intend to solve? Are you trying to solve something? Businesses sometimes start that way. They're mad about something that doesn't work right. Or they're mad about delivery service. They're mad about this and they just want to go do whatever. So is there something you're trying to solve? Is there something that just, you think that there's enough people that would actually buy from you? That's always the next question there. If you solve this issue. There's a lot of things still need to be solved, even though we think everything's just great. So what is it that you're trying to solve? What will be your core competency that will cause you to excel? What is it, and this is kind of a little bit different, that would cause you, what is it that you really want to be good at? Sometimes we want to be good at everything. Well, you can't be good at everything. Only Jesus can be good at everything. So you have to back it up a little bit and go, what is it that I can really do well? And so many companies, they actually do these kind of things where they say their core competency is X, whatever it is. So they really need to do things well. So what is it that you really want to be known for? I mean, if you want to be known as the low-cost provider, you're probably not going to be a very high-quality product. Those usually don't go together. So there's things you got to think through and go, if I had that on my matrix that I wanted to do both, then that's probably not going to work. So there's things you really got to look at and dig into to understand what it is you're trying to accomplish and what your core competency will be to cause you to excel. So why would people come to you? We just assume they are, but they don't naturally come. So there's some things we have to do to accelerate that. How many locations are you considering? So if you're one shop operation, that's okay. But can you franchise that? Can you do some things that cause that to expand beyond what you're thinking? So we have to look at just different things about that. So how many locations? Describe the market, the target audience that you would be servicing with that product or service. So think through how you would do that. What markets would you actually be shooting for? So if you're shooting for people that are in a certain area, then that would be where your location would be. If you're shooting for people that are in high income areas, then you would probably be there where they are. So you have to think through that. What am I trying to provide and where are those customers? And how can I reach them geographically, physically, and every which way? Everybody still with me? So how many states do you want to operate in? or countries you want to operate in. And then so you have to start doing research on every state's different, every country's different. So you have to really dig in and have some firm plans there on how you would do that. Even Oklahoma is different than Texas. Louisiana is different than Texas. New Mexico is different than Texas. So they all have different rules and different things you have to be aware of. It's not a prohibitor, but people get in trouble when they just assume, it's United States, so it's all the same. So we have to look at that and say, if I'm going to have in different states, I'm going to what are the rules in the states, to start outlining that and seeing what that would be. So what is your initial pricing strategy to enter the market? So how would you price your products or services that would appeal to what group you're actually looking for? So these are things you really need to fill out and get out and try to understand what that would be. So if you're going to compete with somebody that's in your market, for example, how do they do it? How would you do that? And so we'll talk about some different things you can do there. But so these are things to really think through and start to formulate around your business. What is it that you're trying to accomplish? So how many people do you plan to hire for each location? And the big key today is, what are the roles and responsibilities and how are you going to go find them? So those are things to look into. How many people? What kind of staff would you be looking at to really ramp up an operation, whatever that operation would be? And it depends on people. There's people out there, but there's good people and not good people. So you have to really find the right people that you're looking for and figure out a way to go find them. Amen? So how would you reach the target audience to entice them to purchase? See, how would you market to them? For example, the business I'm in, we do both social media as well as in-person networking sessions. And so that works for us in what we're doing. But, you have to look at all avenues of that and say, now, how would I reach those? Because you probably won't reach everybody by social media. We figure about 50-50 in our business is the split. Sometimes it goes all different directions. But it's one of those things you're going to have is that people that will want to find you, they'll just they'll do a search. If they don't know you by name, they'll do a search. And so, and typically, so you have keywords, you got to have ways to find you, it's got to be conveniently directions. So people can find you and things like that. So you really think through that. How to best do that? What's my best location options here for the markets that I'm shooting for? And looking at how they can easily find me or how I can get to them easy if you're going to be delivery business. So you look at that piece and the target audience and the purchase market. Look at the marketing side of that. How would I reach people and let them know that I'm there? What's your plan for innovation for changing markets? So you're in a business and somebody out innovates you and causes you to almost go bankrupt if you don't change. So now, what do you do? And so think through all the different disruptions that can happen in the business that you're looking at. And so really look at that and say, okay, how can I turn that around and offset that or be better than that or out innovate them? If you're going to out innovate them, for example, like Apple spends about 10% of their revenue on technology. So if I'm going to compete with them, I'm going to have to be at least at that level or above. So just to know those kind of things and understand what's out there. So let's see. How would you distribute the product or service to each market? So if you have one location in DFW area, for example, and you were going to cover all of DFW area how would you make it easy for your customers either to find you if they need to find you, or you find them? So how easy is that? Driving in DFW areas, interesting, to say the least. But you have to be convenient. They have to be able to find you. So, who are your competitors, and how would you deal with their strengths and weaknesses? So many times we decide we can go in, get into a business and not really pay much attention to competitors. Competitors can cut prices pretty quick, especially if they've got cash to do it. And they, if you make them mad, they can just put you out of business. So you have to really think through, how can I outmaneuver them, even though they may have more cash than I do, or more resources than I do. So think about the service level, think about the quality of the product, think about those things in terms of how you reach them and cause people to want to do business with you. Because there are some companies, we could probably name several companies that are just a pain to deal with. We could go down that road pretty quick. Everybody knows, yeah, okay. But if you want to compete with them, then you need to be less of a pain and be better to deal with. And so you need to understand that and see how would you do that on your competitors. What would this business look like 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now? So look out and do some future views of what it is that it's really kind of an ultimate objective thing. It's looking at what does that transpire into over that time. How big, how wide, how many customers, how many employees, the revenue size, things like that. Now, and the last question most people think is strange is, what is your exit strategy to exit the business? How do you plan on getting out? What is it that you're looking for? Because, if you don't have an exit strategy, then okay, then somewhere along the line, you're going to go on to heaven and leave somebody with a business. So you need to think through that. And I've already had discussions with my kids, and no, they don't want it. So but yeah, so you have to have things planned out. And I think give you a general timeline. If you want to sell the business, that's about a 2 to 3 year timeline to do it right. So you think about that thing and say, okay, now, if I'm not going to do this forever, then what would be my perfect exit plan that would maximize the profit back? That's a key. So those are things we really need to think about going even before we get started up. Now, that'll change over time. You may enjoy what you're doing so much, you're just like, okay, I'm going to ride this for a while. But at some point in time, you don't want to wait too late. I do consulting on the side, and I've dealt with customers that, they just wanted to go home and count the chickens or whatever they had. But the problem is their business was not in good shape to actually sell, so they couldn't. So you can't wait until you're tired and want to just go home. So that's something I like to look at. Always pray during and after seeking the Lord's guidance during this critical step. Ask Him for wisdom. He has wisdom that's way beyond anybody on earth. And so He's there available. He said ask. So you have to ask Him what it is you want. Ask Him how to do some of these things. I mean, sometimes you run into a wall and you just go, I don't know what to do. Well, you're in a good place then, because all you have to do is ask Him and be ready. He will pour it down on you. So we have some assignments. Let me take John 16:13 first, the Living Testament. When the Spirit of truth comes, He will guide you into all truth. He will not speak on His own, but will tell you what He has heard. He will tell you about the future. So He knows what's going to happen. He knows how things are going to turn out. And so when you have somebody there that knows all this stuff, If you're doing all the talking during your prayer session, that's not a good thing to be doing. So you have to really begin to ask him about things. You know, ask him about how to enter into this, how to do these things, how to get over to where you need to be, how to finance it properly, how to get the thing up and running, and just all of these things. He will cause your thoughts to become agreeable with his will if you're just moving in his direction. So it's something you always got to do. So we said the last time that we would pray in the Spirit and your understanding. So that's a continuing assignment. Continue reading a chapter of Proverbs daily. Hopefully everybody's doing that. I get daily correction from that every day and go, well, I should be doing this and shouldn't be doing that. So it helps me. Continue researching different business types. I mean, that's going to be an ongoing thing, is continue researching. And then start answering the questions above. Just begin to kind of go through them and outline them. Everybody spreadsheet friendly or word friendly or anything like that? There you go. So use those tools to just begin to outline what it is. Pray about it. Put it down. No matter how crazy it may sound, just put it down. Write it down. Because the Lord is probably trying to lead you somewhere on that. So you have to really kind of deal with that. Start working on your vision statement. So my vision statement is whatever. And just begin to start working it. I personally like to use whiteboards just to kind of sketch stuff out. But use whatever you want to use just to kind of see, all right, this is what I think, where I think we're going. Now, it may change 20 times, but that's okay. Pray about it. Pray in the Spirit about it. Pray in English about it. And just begin to start there and start thinking through, how would I get this started? So, I mean, one of the things, I mean, I'm not selling franchises, but one of the reasons I started with franchises because they already had the systems of stuff and the business structure to it. And I wanted to know about the real estate investment piece of that. So that was my entry into that, to just say, okay, yeah, I'm paying them a fee for this, but I'm learning. So it's something, you know, there's always those kind of options to look at and go, okay. But even if you get something started, you can also replicate that and get it to a point to where you're franchising to other people. So there's a couple of terms we're going to go over here as we kind of wind this up. Everybody okay? Okay. And this term is, you're going to see this a lot in the financial area, EBITDA. And so some people say that real fast, like it's just all one word. So, but what that is earnings before interest, taxes, and depreciation and amortization. And what it represents in the financial world is it represents your cash flow. How, you know, and so why is that important? Well, your cash flow is, one, critical to you. Number two, investors, if they want to look at it, if you ever wanted to sell or something like that, or get borrowings or anything like that, they're going to ask you what's your EBITDA. Now, because it represents the value of your company. So it's one of the ways that we value companies, to say, okay, this is, and they usually use a term like 3 times EBITDA, 5 times EBITDA, whatever that industry represents. So it's something you really need to get familiar with. And so I put down there, the quality of earnings is key here, because if your financials are not any good, then your EBITDA is probably not any good either. So that's one of the things investors will look at heavily, is how solid are your numbers, or is that something you're just making up? So usually you're looking at 3 years back from a historical standpoint if you're selling, and then 3 years forward is your forecast. And so that's a key term that when you like I said, when you talk to any businesses, you're going to hear that term come out. So that's what that means. It's not spooky. It's just a quick way to come up with the value of a company. Now, they'll pour into that deeper as they go, but it's a way you can kind of understand what it is that your business is worth. The second one is SWOT, S-W-O-T. And so that's an analysis strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. So it's basically a 4 matrix bracket that you're looking at, and we typically, what we do is we look at competitors. Where are their strengths? Where are their weaknesses? Significant competitors. Where are our opportunities to penetrate that, and then where are the threats? What do they really do well that really causes problems? So that's something you'll want to see and do when you're looking at the competitive market forces, to see how it is. If you just tell people SWOT analysis, they'll feel good about what you just did. Now, they may challenge you on your assumptions, but that's something you will really need to do, especially when you're looking at competitors, and really get into that to understand how can I penetrate this market? Where's my opportunities to grow? That's what you're looking for there. And what are the competitors doing that are causing me problems, or potentially causing problems? So you're really looking for that as well. So you really need to drive into that and understand, what do they do well and what do they do sloppily? That's the easiest way to look at it. All right, questions? 45 minutes, questions. So, any questions? Got to be a bunch. So what we're going to do is we're going to drive into business plans. And we're going to start going through business structures the next time, and we'll get into business planning. That's a lot of information we'll go into. We're going to spend a whole session on why businesses fail. And there's statistics out there in the Small Business Administration website, and we'll bring those up here and we'll talk through them. We'll sit here and talk through each one. Why? Well, ultimately, businesses struggle, and some make it and some fail. But usually there's some learning that comes out of that to go, well, whatever I do, don't do that. And so, it happens to the best of them or the worst of them. And so, we'll go through those maybe next time, we'll see. But we'll get into business structures, we'll get into business planning, and really drive into it heavily. So if you're spreadsheet friendly or, whatever friendly on the tools, go ahead and start right there with that information. Start answering those questions to the best you can. Pray about it. See what the Lord really wants to do. He wants to bless you more than you think. And so we have to really get out of it. Oh, I only want to do this. Well, the Lord may kick you out there. He always kicks me out there. So I know He's going to kick you out there as well. So, all right, we'll pray. And if you have any questions after, we can talk. Father, we just thank you for this opportunity to get together, Lord, to learn about how to do business in your kingdom. And we worship and thank you, Lord, for it. And we just praise you, Father, that you cause wisdom to flow to each person, Lord, as they ask and they're ready to write down things, Lord, that you give them speedy answers, clear answers, things that they can run with, Lord. And we just praise you and thank you for